syndrome or some other developmental disability plus the mental health, and seeing like family members thinking that if they took them either like Golden Temple, bas sab kuch theek hoena.
Yeah.
Or like from my childhood, a friend who got diagnosed with schizophrenia, and the family thinks, oh, byah kar diye, theek hoena.
Yeah.
That's the cure, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of dealing with those things and trying to educate, especially I think in our community. And I think as we are moving along, there is a lot more awareness, like you said, from 2014, and I graduated way before that. So it's been like a long, long process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, with that, believe me, when I first started, that was frustrating for me too, is thinking like, how is that going to help this individual? How is this going to help them? But like, knowing that the family has that individual's best interest in mind, and with the knowledge and experience that they have, they're doing the best that they can. And seeing it from that lens really shifts that perspective, is that, okay, that family member is doing the best that they can with that individual, with the knowledge they have. And of course, we are concerned about that individual's well-being, but they're that family member. They have way more concern for that individual. So seeing it through that lens, I think, is really helped me shift my perspective in my with my experience too. So again, using that knowledge, using that that education to help them. And when it comes to faith, I think faith is a huge part of mental health, and so using faith as a strength for that individual is it will help them in that healing process. So I think again, it comes from the lens of compassion. That whatever they're doing in that time with that individual is the best that they can do, and they have that individual's best interest in mind. And using that as your power is that, okay, we both want the best for this individual. How can we work together to really provide the best outcome for this person? So that's the lens that I'm using.
And then, also mental health and addictions.
Yeah.
So, we see more and more addictions, whether it was there before, it's coming out now. Drug addictions, alcohol abuse. I think alcohol is a very huge factor, especially now our culture, which is kind of just brushed off. And then it's hard. When you look at family members, they view that person as an addict or having this problem and just kind of getting over it. Even with mental health, snap out of it kind of thing. So what would you say to family members or people, around somebody that's going through an addiction?
Yeah, I think safety is the number one, thing that an individual should keep in mind, is that keep that patient or person's safety in top concern, and try to understand why that individual may be using substances, right? And again, coming through a lens of compassion, talking to them from a non-judgmental perspective and a no blame, right? They are not their addiction.
Yes, exactly.
An individual is not their addiction. They are not an alcoholic. They are not a drug addict. They are an individual with an addiction, right? So that addiction doesn't make that person. I think once we see that, we are able to see what that person is actually going through, and seeing the pain or trauma that individual is using, or using substances to sort of help them with that trauma. So, that I think it's power of perspective and shifting that. And I think going through, a lot of individuals have personal experiences with alcoholism, especially in the South Asian community. Heroin is huge in our South Asian community. So if we are able to come through a compassionate lens, I think that would be the best. And, not trying to do extreme situations. I've even seen people like, right? Get married or have kids.
Yes.
They'll be fine. They'll have a sense of response.
That's
not the cure. Exactly, right? That is not the cure. So really understanding why that individual may be using. And addiction, I think in our South Asian community, I've seen it's quite generational too. It comes from generation to generation. So I think starting off with that education first, educating yourself, and asking that individual what they need from you. And from there, I think we'd be able to, help them and guide them in the right process. And I think that's where us as healthcare professionals come in. We'll be able to help you guide yourself, the individual, in the right way to help them with their addiction. So, leaning on your health professional, your family doctor, the hospital, the emergency department. Like I said, their safety, your safety is your number one priority. So, that's why we are here. And that's why we receive our training.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's good to see there's a lot of community resources that coming out, supporting, like I think we within our Surrey, there's, some news organizations that have come up to recognize, to provide like a one place hub support, which is so good to see. And I think, that's so beneficial to not just one community, but also, that sets a foundation for other communities as well.
Absolutely. And I'm being very candid here again, like navigating through the system is not easy, right? It's not, even sometimes as us as healthcare professionals, we have trouble navigating through that. And we can only imagine, someone just, where do they even begin, right? Where do they even begin to start searching? So, leaning on those resources as much as you can. There, a simple Google search. There's so many resources available, but again, that's why, we are here. And that's why health professionals are here. So we'll do the best that we can to guide you.
And I know I agree, because I think when you are navigating resources, even to this day, feel like you have all the information at the fingertips, you Google and you can everything, but still, like you feel like, okay, there is a connection. There's, I need to connect. Or a lot of people, you hear that, I called so and so, I told my story, and now they told me, okay, they heard my story, then referred me to somebody else, I have to tell the story. It's like you're already experiencing mental health issues, and then here you have to express yourself. That is just
it is exhausting. It is very exhausting, and it's
and then give up. People just say, okay, I need to just not do anything for a week, and within that week could be a lot of negative impacts on a person, right? Receiving services.
And I think believe me, there's active work that's going on within all of the health authorities to remove those barriers as much as possible. And I think me working in corporate healthcare, that's one of the things that we do work on, is try to reduce the barriers as much as possible. But I acknowledge the fact that telling your story over and over, it's re-traumatizing, and you've told your story a million times. But I acknowledge that can be quite exhausting.
What about also, like not only in our community, but in anybody, where people want to seek help or they go and get help, but then it's like, if I go and get help, in the same town, these people might know me, or that, I don't want to go because, or especially if a South Asian nurse is there, or they might know, they might talk, and people might, find out that I'm there and this is happening and might call me crazy. Did you experience that, and how did you overcome those kind of barriers?
Yeah, it's, don't get me wrong, I have probably crossed many individuals who I've known personally as well, and have come in to use our services. But, with healthcare, we are bound by confidentiality and privacy as well. So rest assured, your privacy and confidentiality are protected. And a lot of the times, at least for myself, if I know that individual, I will not be their primary caregiver. That's something that I will make sure. So, there are safeguards in place for that individual and I can speak on behalf of a lot of healthcare professionals, is that regardless of your fears, just know that we're here for your best interest, and we're here to help you as much as we can. So, taking that first step is so scary, but once you've taken that first step, we can help you, guide you from there. But so rest assured that confidentiality and privacy are there, and at the end of the day, your safeties are number one priority. So we will do everything that we can to keep you safe, and everything that is discussed amongst us is bound by confidentiality.
Very good point. And I think for our viewers, it's like, if you feel like you're going to a person who knows you, or he knows your family, and your information could be leaked and you don't want to be, you can always ask to be seen 100%. By a different service provider.
And we do not take offense to that, believe me, we don't. If there's someone else that you would like to speak to, absolutely. Absolutely. And that is within your rights as well, and you should be able to advocate for yourself and do that. Yeah.
And so, talking about mental health, maybe somebody's suffering, or, somebody knows of a colleague, a friend, a peer, or, in their family. What are some of the symptoms that might be displayed?
Yeah, it depends on the illness, but if you do notice changes, a lot of the times, someone will socially withdraw. You notice that the individual is interacting less and less. Whatever they're acting outside of their normal. I don't like using that word, but their baseline, whatever their their usual, their regular day to day is. You see that individual withdrawing. You can see increased irritability in their mood, sadness. There's a lot of different things. You see the individual maybe using substances more. They may be socially drinking, and suddenly you see them drinking a lot more. There's a lot of symptoms in there. So trying to do your research as well is the best. But, trust your gut, I think, is if you feel that individual needs help, trust your gut and reach out and ask them if they need anything from you. So start noticing different things in individuals, I think, is the key.
And I think especially for family members or your peers, sometimes, if somebody's withdrawing or changing, sometimes we take that as a negative or that person, it can't be bothered and leave them to it. So maybe it's more than once that you keep trying.
Ask them what's going on, right? And they may not be able to tell you the first time, but again, coming from a place of compassion and understanding that there could be a reason why they may be withdrawing or they may be, using substances or whatever that change you may notice, and not to come to conclusions about it, because we do not know what that individual is going through. Yeah. And I think those are the types of things when we jump to conclusion actually inhibit people from talking to people. Yes. We talked about those barriers, right? So I think if we sort of remove that preconceived notion, jumping to conclusions, we'd be able to understand the individuals. It's like your example of when you went into the downtown east side and you thought you had to behave a certain way or dress a certain way, but those are your preconceived notions. Exactly. But once you actually got to know what the system is, you were able to open yourself up to even more. So if we're able to do that, we're able to allow that person to open up to and provide a safe space for them to discuss.
And so what's one of the first, options or avenues that they can seek some support?
Yeah, I think first of all, like using yourself as a support if they're able to talk to you, and then there's so many resources online available. Again, navigating those are quite difficult, but that's when you reach out. I think the first step would be your family doctor. The family doctor is a great resource if that individual has a family doctor. Walk-in clinics. Those clinics have a lot of information about what's available to you. So reach out to your family doctor, to your walk-in clinic, if you need support. And if you need it, walk into a hospital.
Yes.
Our doors are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's why we're here. You need help, you walk in those doors, right? And keeping in mind safety is your number one priority. If you feel unsafe, you feel that somebody in your loved one is unsafe, 911 is your best option, right? Even though, it may be a very extreme example, the best thing is that you need to protect the safety of yourself and that individual. You'd rather have that person safe rather than have them, rather than something detrimental happen to them.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's other resources, right? When we're talking about that you don't want to be seen, probably there's stigma that attached, that you can call 211.
211 is a big one, yeah.
You can start 8, or you can connect with the nurse on the phone and they can direct you. So there's lots of resources now, which is, Yeah.
Exactly. 211 is a great nurse on the phone is great resource as well. Those are great individuals to sort of call up and get their ID. And then there's also, there's times where you may feel unsafe, you're having thoughts of harming yourself or others. The Fraser Health Suicide Line. Yes. There's an individual that you can talk to over the phone, right? Because a lot of the times we're not comfortable face to face, talking to someone face to face, and we rather have someone on the phone, so using those resources.
And I think we cannot not identify that, there's like long waits and lineups to go to doctors and things like that. So it's very important that you recognize this on the phone, that you can connect to somebody. Yep. And I was trying to sign up for a new phone, and there's you'll be eligible for TELUS Health or something like that. So they're coming up with new innovative ways to connect people to health and mental health. Yeah,
telehealth is huge right now, using technology to speak to a professional. So there's tons of options out there. I think the first thing is finding that courage to ask for help. Yeah. And I think, if I can say something is don't be afraid. I know it's easier said than done. And take that first step. If you need help, reach out. That doesn't have to be to a healthcare professional, but to a loved one you trust. And I think from there we'll be able to really provide that guidance for that individual.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not alone. You're not alone. Even though you might feel alone, so just even reaching out to anybody, one person at least.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you work in the field, and now I want to talk about you. What do you do to take care of yourself? Let's talk about
your self-care.
Okay.
Social butterfly.
Here we go.
Yeah. Because I think you said you were such a you was a very social person, because that also takes a lot of energy.
It does. It does. So, honestly, for me, it's I think keeping up with my physical health first time is huge, right? Using the time to take care of my body, eating right. I think that's a huge proponent to my mental health. And I think surrounding myself with really positive minded individuals, that being professionally, you know, picking a team that is really positive, and then my personal circle as well, my friends, my family, and having that has been really beneficial to my mental health. And doing a lot of other self-care, I use a lot of reflective techniques, is actually journal. And for me, that's huge, is to get my thoughts out of my head. You know, so, you know, like I said, my mental health isn't perfect, if I'm going to be very honest. And using that venue to journal, I think is huge. And personal me time, I actually recently found gardening so happy. I was like, I spent like 3 hours on the lawn gardening yesterday. And so, and I think for me is talking to people I trust. In situations that I need help, and leaning on people. Like I said, being vulnerable to myself is very difficult, and it was very difficult, but I think I used those techniques to help me take care of myself. So, and it's not just, it's a holistic thing. It's a lot of the other things that I do that make me whole, right? Keeping my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, and surrounding myself with positivity, I think, is huge.
And I know, like, another avenue that you also explored and doing was clothing.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
clothing
yeah.
design. So
Yeah.
tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so I've
So
always...
you have a passion.
I do. Like, my friends and family who know me know I love fashion, and I've always grown up loving it. And I brought it out in clothing and started designing menswear. And it was fun. And, you know, I brought it to the public market, and it's going great, and that's my creative edge.
That's Manish Kumar.
Manish Kumar Designs, yeah. So I have a lot of fun doing it. I love working with so many individuals. COVID things slowed down, of course, but I love that creative aspect of it and bringing my vision. So a lot of the Indian clothes that I wear is my own stuff. So I express my creativity through the things that I wear. So
like even wedding ajkans and stuff, so you know the stress of a wedding, so the groom comes to you, I need some, you know, I need to be de-stressed.
Yeah.
The psych nurse providing
Yeah,
you with
it's a double whammy. Yeah, right? And people are actually shocked. They're like, so like, do you do this full time? I'm like, oh, no, this is like a side of the table thing.
What?
They're like, you're a nurse? I'm like, yeah. But yeah, so that's where I express my creative edge.
Yeah.
Another quick question,
Yeah.
Manish, I know that you want to leave soon. During COVID, so 2 years, what were what came out of that was good for you? What was the bad?
I don't think anything bad came from me, if I'm being completely honest, right? That time, like, first of all, professionally, it was amazing. You know, I was able to really, you know, learn so much in my career. And like, I gotta say, us as a healthcare, we were not ready for this. I don't think we were not ready for something like this to happen. And the learning that came out of it, I think COVID really forced me to professionally grow. But when I'm looking at it personally, I think the biggest thing that COVID taught me was, I thought I was a grateful person, but COVID showed me how much I took for granted, to be very honest, right? And the things that I thought, you know, weren't luxuries to me, or weren't, like, I was like, wow, I'm so thankful for this. So the personal growth was huge too, right? And you know, connecting with like-minded individuals. And then I think I spent more time with healthcare professionals than my own family, so I got to know so many individuals from different departments and grow professionally and emotionally, and I think that was huge. And I think COVID taught me gratitude. Yeah.
Thank you. I know, it's like, I feel like, you know, when we were shut down to the world, it gave us an opportunity to go inwards. And that's when we found ourselves, what we need to do for ourselves. So.
But COVID has not been kind to individuals either. You know, a new field that we're looking into is COVID and mental health. How has COVID affected individuals with mental health? And so that's something that's coming up and emerging as well. So, you know, COVID was not kind to everybody.
And especially
still not.
Especially like, I think, you know, when we look at people who are living in isolated situations prior to COVID, you know, who are by themselves alone, who don't have family or friends, dealing with mental health challenges and all those stuff. Now they cannot even get out of the place to, you know, unless it was a necessity.
And so, like I said, for me socially, I think it was so difficult, me being a social person and then like completely cutting out everybody and like virtually meeting. But I think I was able to connect with individuals on a different level, you know, and yes, rather than in a social setting, but like spend time on the phone and talk to an individual, right? And really listen to individuals and foster those relationships and really be thankful for the relationships I have that were in my life to support me through that time. And, COVID took so many lives of people that we kept in, our social circle, our loved ones. It took so many loved ones away. And so, again, it coming to that gratitude component of being thankful for what we have. Yeah.
Great. So just quickly want to know, what are your future plans? Where do we see Manish next?
I eventually want to complete my PhD. I think in the next couple of years.
Dr. Manish.
Yeah, exactly. Get that doctorate in front of my name.
Yes.
I don't know what I want to do my PhD in. I do want to do my PhD and continue in healthcare and see where it takes and continue doing my design business.
Yes.
But healthcare is my truest passion, and so I will continue doing that. So who knows where life will take me, but I'm always open to opportunities.
That's great. Yeah. It was lovely to have you in the studio,
nice meeting you guys again.
Talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Manish.
Yes.
Okay, take care.
Yes.
So that was Manish, and it was great talking to Manish, working as a nurse in mental health and the different aspects of it that we spoke about. Like when we talk about stigma and mental health and how, the evidence-based treatments that there is, just like, if you had a physical illness, whether you have high blood pressure or you broke your arm, people are more kind of open or accepting of that.
Yeah,
you can have a broken arm,
Yeah.
you can't have a broken brain. More so, treatments and seeking treatments. And especially, I think, in our South Asian community, there's a lot more resources coming out here in Surrey, especially that have been on the show also, like, the Moving Forward Counselling Services.
Yes.
And I think it was Seva or Safa that came out, even the opiate use groups for new immigrants, international students, or even youth that are born here, that, kind of educating, providing those Naxalone kits and training, and also educating the older generation, going to the Gurdwaras and educating, providing that education.
Yeah, and I think, that's where the change is going to happen, because I think, what we have to educate the community as a whole. It cannot just say you're going to provide the services to the person who is experiencing mental health issues, but how they're supported, how their environment is, and the environment starts with from home. So if we can support, the parents, when the kids involved with, like, grandparents, because the grandparents, when you look at the South Asian community, the grandparents are involved in the children's lives. So, and we talked earlier, like how they say, what, agar gurdwara lekar jaya, golden palak jai, but if they have the knowledge and if they become aware of, this is mental health, it's just like having diabetes, and then this person needs medication, this person needs treatment, and what can I do, how can I be a part of this person's journey, so that they can move forward.
Yeah, and I think just education, like, we talked about education and educating yourself, educating your family members, your relatives, around what mental health is, and it's an illness, like that you do need treatment for, whether that be medication or counseling or a combination of both, and seeking the supports and help needed. And one thing that kind of, is hard, like even when we're looking at people, and people withdraw that, usually went that way, even sometimes, we kind of think we're not going to bother with that person, but, keep going back, asking and just being there until that person's ready, because ultimately the step has to be taken by the individual.
And a very good point. I think, just because you are ready as a support doesn't mean the person who's experienced is ready to seek the support right now. And I think, I think Meena has made a very good point, because sometimes you don't have to say anything. Just be present, fully present, and let the person know. I think when we were talking to Manish, he said, come from a place of compassion, that you are really there because you want to, because you care about the person, and you are actually there to support them. And being present, rather not say anything anything than to say the wrong things,
Yeah.
and be open-minded, be present so that the person start to feel comfortable around you, to start building good rapport and relationships, start getting supports from you.
And I think especially for ourselves, whether it's a man or a woman, in our community, in any other community, South Asian community, it's okay to ask for help. Sometimes we feel like we have to do everything. We have to provide for everybody. We have to make sure everything is done, and then we neglect ourselves. So, asking for help is okay. Doing things together, as a team is okay. And paying attention to what you need.
Yeah, taking the time to do self-care. It's a lot of people say, that we put ourselves last, but no, we owe it to ourselves, because we have to care for ourselves to be able to care for the people around us, to better care for the people around us. And if we cannot, one of those things that we always talk about, that you cannot pour from the empty cup. So fill yourself up, care for yourself, surround yourself with people that you can count on, that and we talked about vulnerability, to ask for people to help. That's a vulnerability. Some people say that, no, I should be able to manage this on my own. You don't have to manage everything on your own. We all have people in our lives. It's just recognizing the person that we trust and that person is there for us, is to reach out to those people. And it doesn't even have to be, we'll start from the doctor as well, right? Or a phone call to 211, 811, and there's so many things that if you feel that you cannot talk to anybody. Yeah.
And, just taking the steps for yourself, whether that be journaling, exercising, or even 5 minutes a day, or even 2 minutes a day, just kind of sitting with yourself, being calm, or just, not having any distractions, and just doing that for yourself.
Yes. And I think to our viewers, Meena and I, we are also available. So, you can watch MindSense. We have a website, mindsense.tv. And we have a Facebook page. You can reach out to us, and we can also connect with you, and also connect you to the other resources in the community.
Yeah, so that was great. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'm your host, Meena J.
And I'm your host, Rita Chand.
For astrology service, life horoscope, and fortune telling, marriage problem, love problem, divorce problem, money problem, personal or business, all types of puja and havan. Call Pandit Lakshminath Guruji 1604-849-4872, serving Alberta and BC.
Community Outreach Pharmacy, providing in-home pharmacy services.
This includes our specialized diabetes and blood pressure monitoring program,
Free blister packing, free deliveries, and an in-home injection service throughout the whole Lower Mainland.
Call us at 604-777-5601 for more information.